We're learning Manachachim, the letter, page Kuf Yud Aleph. And here starts a new section. So to recap what Rabbi Yoel dealt with in the last 10 pages or so from the beginning, the nationalism issue that the Satmars used, Chabad of nationalism. Rabbi Yoel then rejected not only the accusation, but did say that nationalism is kfira, is heresy, and he brought support for that. But nevertheless, it doesn't mean that you should, hate Jews or people, and even the approach towards Zionism should be one with positivity, not negativity. And he spoke about that. He then also spoke about the argument that the Zionists say that it's a schalta de Geula, it's the beginning of the Geula, and he refuted that. And in yesterday's shir, we learned about the other issue that the Satmar and company argue is that the state of Eretz Yisrael, of Israel, by forming a state, it's a violation of the three oaths, and he rejected he rejected that because it's a halachic issue, and he said that there are halachis that disagree with that it's a prohibition. And he brought clearly the citations for that. And the third issue is discussed at length in the first letter in the Sefer. And now we're coming to another issue. Sibas Hachshad, the cause for concern. If you're going to tell me, Mekivin she'emesu she'Lubavitch ein lo shum shaychus l'Zionism, that Lubavitch doesn't have any connection to Zionism, chas v'sholom. Now, I said it yesterday, I said it many times, but I can't keep saying it enough. Rabbi Yoel is writing this letter to Satmars, who accused Lubavitch of certain things. So he has to he has to write in a language that the Satmars who make these accusations understand. I discussed this with the author of this, the one who put the Sefer together. I called him yesterday, and he agreed I was right. He said, that's why, in other words, if these Satmars don't hear you writing that Zionism is kfira, they'll discount the whole letter. They'll say that means you're not on the same page as us. So some of Rabbi Yoel's expressions are rather sharp against Zionism, although he doesn't disagree with the nekuda, but it's all in the spin. So he's using the spin of the Satmar, you understand? He's using the way they talk. Because if he uses the way they talk and they think, they'll be willing to listen to what he writes, and then they'll think about what he writes, and they'll see that the Lubavitch anti-Zionism and the Satmar is day and night. I think
it's a good title for your next book.
What?
Spin on Satmar.
What?
Spin on Satmar.
Spin on Satmar. Oh my gosh, that would really sell well. Maybe I got to think about it. I got to make sure that I don't live in Borough Park. I got to leave Borough Park for that. And once I go to Eretz Yisrael or to Florida, I can write Spin on Satmar. But anyway, so that's why throughout this letter, Velvel, you'll see Rabbi Yoel using some very sharp terms and ideas, very sharp. And like I asked this rabbi yesterday, why does he have to express himself this way? He can make the same point without the venom. The venom. Venom means the hatred. You know what I'm saying? It sounds... So it's because the Satmar have venom of hatred. So he has to kind of say, I hear your venom, and I can understand your venom, but nevertheless, it's two different worlds. So this way, they will identify better with and be willing to listen to what he says and think about it and then say, hey, I've made a mistake and I want to change my approach. So you have to remember that when you read this letter and learn this letter, that's where he's coming from. In other words, I did not hear the Rebbe when he spoke about, issues in Eretz Yisrael. I never heard him, speak this way with such venom. I didn't hear that. And most Lubavitchers didn't hear that. And all Lubavitchers didn't hear that. So that's why it's a little shocking for me as a Lubavitcher who listened to the Rebbe for so many years when he spoke about Eretz Yisrael to read the way Rabbi Yoel is writing here. And the answer is he's writing it because that's the way they think. So he has to kind of get into their mind. And it's a lesson for us also when we communicate with people. If you want communication to be positive and to make an impact, you have to kind of write and speak the way the one you're trying to impact speaks and writes, and nevertheless make your point where the person will say, but I got it all wrong. And I'll give you an example. I don't want to say someone who I know who was raised more in the not Litvish, but Yeshivish and modern Orthodox, the Litvish type of direction. And because of certain personal thing that happened, he started to learn Chassidus, and his eyes opened up. And I was thinking about it. It's like a person who's 30, 40, 50, who's raised a certain way. When you go to yeshiva, when you live in a community, whether it's Teaneck, New Jersey, or Williamsburg, or Flatbush, or Bet Shemesh, it's so hard to unravel things that you picked up from your parents and grandparents and culture. You understand? And this is what Rabbi Yoel is trying to do here, to unravel this mishigas that the Satmar Hasidim picked up and went around selling it to the children and to the students. When indeed, as you would see when you read the first letter, that's not what the Satmar Rebbe meant. It's not what he wrote. On and on and on. But if you ask an average, and you know that, like I think Yoini or someone else said, or Isser said yesterday, Tziyoini hu goy. Tziyoini hu goy. That's what Isser said, right? So that's the aftermath of years of hacking a chaynik. And that's what Rabbi Yoel is trying to undo. Now that's, like I said yesterday, I don't think he changed it, the average cheder still thinks this way. Nebuch, Rahman Litzlan. But nevertheless, those who are thoughtful will change their thinking, and then there's the rest of Judaism. In other words, there are people today who are not Satmar, who are straight Yeshivish, Litvish, modern Orthodox, and some of them see the point of the Satmar Shita. So with such a sefer, they'll quickly realize that the Shita, the way the Shita has been marketed, is ludicrous and wrong. And that's why it's very important for this to be written. Let's continue. So he says, Madua yesh haitzois las b'Vilniusburg. So in other words, if, as I said, Rabbi Yoel says, that Lubavitch is against Zionism, why is there a laws? Why is there a no? Why do people in Williamsburg say that Lubavitch has become grabbed in the web of Zionism? God forbid. Al zeh oshiv, so Rabbi Yoel says, Al zeh oshiv l'cha, I will respond to you about this question of yours. We have this in the past in our history. There were Jews who spoke negatively about the Baal Shem Tov. Before that, Al Rabbi Yonasan Eibschitz, Mechaber Atumim, famous Rabbi Yonasan Eibschitz. They spoke heresy against him, that he's a heretic and bad things. The Gamal Rambam, Rabbeinu Yoina, had the Rambam's Meir Nevuchim burnt.
Which direction is he going?
Right? So Rabbi Yoel says, you're questioning me, but why Satmar speaks negatively about Lubavitch, even though Lubavitch in Shita, in essence, also is against Zionism, because we've had that already, Baal Shem Tov and the Rabbi Yonasan Eibschitz and the Rambam. You can go in all of time. There are people who had an axe to grind, and they thought that the Baal Shem Tov and the Rambam held so-and-so, which is heresy, and therefore they have to come out against it. V'hinei kol machloekes hoisa mitzad shnei sibos. Every machlekes is due to two reasons. Aleph, mitzad anoshim bali machlekes. Who brings machlekes? People who are bali machlekes, men of machlekes, umecharcherei riv, and those that bring argumentation and divisiveness. She'eviu malshinus shel sheker, they bring gossip of lies. Lifnei g'doilei ha'Torah shebedoirahu. They do this before the great gedolim of that generation, and they gossip lies to the gedolim of each generation, saying, "You hear what he said? You hear what he wrote? He's a heretic." V'gam hefitzu shmuos shoynes bein ha'amoim. They also disseminate lies amongst the masses. Shkorim gasim biyoser. Big lies. Shleyochlu lema l'gdeili ha'Torah. They don't, in other words, they're big lies they can't say to the G'dolim of Torah, because they'll say you're a liar. So to them they make up, little lies, and they fatredet sein, as we say in Yiddish, they change the truth, But to the masses, they say outrageous lies. Even though, like I said, even to the G'dolim they said lies, nevertheless, such lies that are outrageous, that they couldn't say to the G'dolim. So to them, they twist the truth. Number two, Rabbi Yoel is explaining here who and how is machlekes created in the community. Beis. Since there was all kinds of ideologies of heresy, Shita Spinoza Yamach Shemam, the Shita of Spinoza. Now, you see, this is Yamach Shemam. Rabbi Yoel, I knew him. He never spoke this way. I knew him intimately. I spent hours and hours with the man. Not just in Shir, in his house, walking on the street with him. He never spoke this way. This is not the way a Lubavitcher speaks. Yamach Shemam. So how does he write it over here? Because that's the way the Satmars speak. You understand? So he wants the Satmar who's getting this letter, the Satmars, to feel comfortable. Oh, he's on our side. He's used the word Yamach Shemam. Oh, now we can hear what he has to say. That's what you see in front of you. Let's continue. Kat Shatz Shabtai Tzvi Yamach Shemam. The coat of Shabtai Tzvi Yamach Shemam. V'yachakach HaFrankisten. Afterwards, the group called Avram the Frankists. V'yachakach HaSkola. After that came the Enlightenment movement. Mendelssohn v'Sayotai started and developed and augmented by a fellow named, a Jew named Mendelssohn, Moshe Mendelssohn, and his supporters. V'yoid, and many more. Mitzad Geidel Hayira Upachat Mi'inyoni Kfira, due to the great fear, the fear of heresy, in the Kishabah Mishahu, the Hatel Suffolk, when someone came along and casted doubt about these individuals being heretics. When the person said with a that it's for sure a lie and it isn't the case, that caused right away a fear. And for example, the opposition to Shabtai Tzvi and Frank hat me vereins hereingenommen es Reb Yonis and Eibschitz und Talmidim. What did they do? They put into the entire bag not only Frank and Shabtai Tzvi, but the Baal Shem Tov and Reb Yonis and Eibschitz. And they put them all in and said they're all heretics because they all came up with innovations. And since they saw certain things by the Baal Shem Tov and by the Yonis and Eibschitz that outwardly that has some kind of similarity to Shabtai Tzvi and Frank, so they said about them that they're heretics. Even though there's an inherent difference between the Shabtai Tzvi and Frank and the Baal Shem Tov and the Reb Yonis and Eibschitz. But no, Baal Shem Tov came up and all of a sudden said that an ish poshut, a Jew who is simple and doesn't know how to learn, is a Jew just as much as the great Talmud Chacham. That was a chiddush, and to them that was arrogant, to them that smelled of kfira. The next paragraph. The same thing is in our case. Since, unfortunately, the act of the Satan, it succeeded that there are Yidden that are religious and orthodox from who have been caught in the web of Zionism. Just as the Mizrahiiks and the Agudis, they have been caught in the web of Zionism in two ways. That believing in nationalism, and believing in beginning Gula. Therefore, so when they hear something about Lubavitch that smells to them as a similarity to Zionism, and so because they're fearful of heresy, they say, stay away from Lubavitch. In any situation, even if it has nothing to do with Zionism. Because these guys are a rotten apple, that idea. And they don't make the cheshbon, the account, that everything with the Lubavitch, everything the Lubavitch does, there's no connection to Zionism whatsoever. In other words, what does putting on film with a Yid have to do with Zionism? Nothing. No, but these guys are suspect. And as soon as you put them in the same bag as suspect as the heretics, therefore they're all invalid. That's what he says over here. Well, the dogma continuing. And for example, last paragraph, page Kuf Yud Aleph. When they hear that Chabad, the Lubavitch, emphasizes the saying of the sages, even though a Jew sinned, he's a Jew. And Lubavitch says, every single Jew, even a sinner, is a Jew. They say, since the Agudis also use this chazal, this phrase, but they use it to support nationalism, so the Satmars say, you are an Agudist who is a Zioni, and they don't make the difference between being a Lubavitcher and Agudist. You know what they say? You Lubavitchers have some of the idea of nationalism. Next page. Even though Lubavitch emphasizes in this saying, the teaching of the Razal, Gufa, Shemohusa Shel Yehuda Hu Torah. How does Lubavitch look at this saying, teaching? That the essence of a Yid is Torah. Contrary to nationalism. Kenal Barucha, as we said earlier at great length. So, unfortunately, the people who are troublemakers, Bali Machlokes, they don't go, and they intentionally don't go further to see the difference between Lubavitch and Zionists, and they say, they're using the same phrase as the Zionists. Oh, they're using the same Chazal, they're Zionists. What Lubavitch means with that Chazal is the total opposite of nationalism. It means that that a sinner, why is a sinner still a Jew? Because of Torah, not because of nationalism. But they don't make that discern, and therefore they say you're all invalid and you're all heretics. When they hear Yoini, that Lubavitch says, and as you said yesterday to hear this from the Rebbe, that it's forbidden to return shtachim, mitzat pikuach nefashos, because you're endangering lives of Yidden. Hine shemikoyde ba'alocha. The Rebbe saw this coming from a source in halacha. Nevertheless, the Satmar ein roitzim lahavchin, they don't make the difference. V'oimrim shezeh inyin shel Zionism. It's Zionism. Zionism also says don't give back land. The Rebbe is not giving back of land. That has nothing to do with Zionism. The Rebbe always said, and I heard it from him hundreds of times, Yonason heard it too, and Velvel probably heard it too, and that is that he said, it's a din in Hilchas Shabbos, remember? Shin Mem Gimel, he quoted, I think, Shin Mem Gimel, chapter 343, I believe, and he quoted the Sif Beis, I don't recall exactly, where it says that you're not allowed to give, if the enemy is coming, and there's even a suffix that is coming, you're not allowed to give back an inch of land. So the Rebbe said it's a halacha. The Rebbe didn't come to this, it's a Lubavitcher thing. It's a Hasidic zach. No, the Rebbe said that this is what the halacha is saying. So what Rabbi Yoel is saying is here, how can you accuse Lubavitch of being Zionist because they don't want to give back land, just like the Zionists don't want to give back land? They don't want to give back land to Zionists because it's parts of nationalism. Lubavitch, the Rebbe spoke about not giving back land because it's the halacha, it's Torah. So it's night and day. But nevertheless, because outwardly it sounds the same thing, not giving back land, so the Satmars say, aha, you are Zionists, you hold the same shita. Because the Satmars say you could give back land. And not only the Satmars say, others say too. You know that, right? So if Chabad, if Lubavitch, if the Rebbe said you can't give back land because it's halacha, they don't know that they don't care that it's halacha. They know one thing. You're in the same camp as the Tzionim. But again, Tzionis, regarding Zionism, what time is it?
It's 3:10.
Okay, 5 minutes. Let's go. But the Gela Raina Zionism regarding Zionism, Hainu, she'efshe yir, efshe lios ezas chalte, das chalte, the gul of neighbors, that there could be a possibility of a beginning of Mashiach's arrival. In the Shittas Rabbeinu Shlita, the Shita of the Rebbe, the Shittas, he keshitas hagoyim et Satmar zatzal. The Rebbe agrees with the Satmar of uvinyonim mesuyim, and in certain things, Shittas Rabbeinu Shlita, the Shita of the Rebbe, he oit charifa yois is even sharper than the Satmar of. Ela sheyesh inyanim ba'alocha sheyesh man plukta. They had a disagreement in certain halachic issues. Vari pluktis ba'alocha hay b'chol doyer. In every generation, Talmid Chachamim had disagreement in halacha Yonason. So Rabbi Yoel is saying here, just as the Satmar was against Zionism coming from a halachic perspective, the Rebbe too. The difference is, in certain issues, they had a difference of what the halacha is. However, this idea that outwardly Lubavitch seems to share certain things with Aguda, which he said already is Zionistic. This would not cause the Satmars to speak so bad about Lubavitch. Since there is an additional thing, which is going to say now, that's why it spoke so bad. What is that? Amongst those Satmars who are troublemakers, bringing our divisiveness into the community, Hefitzu, they publicize Shmuei Shoshkorim, lies, gossip, big lies, that never happened. They brought false gossip based on the Satmar Rebbe. They went and told the Satmar Rebbe, do you know what Lubavitch says? Do you know what the Rebbe says? And some of it, unfortunately, he bought. He listened. I remember in 1968, he had a stroke. And he passed away in 79. And the 70s was really the years where they attacked Chabad. This is coming already in the 80s after their venom of the 70s. So during that time, he wasn't, as sharp. And unfortunately, he accepted some of the lies that were brought to his attention. Let me just finish the paragraph and I'll take your question. There is an established point to Lashon Hara. This was also said about great Yidden. In that sefer, Daf 7. Listen to what it says this. I remember learning this, and it was fascinating. There is a covenant, velvel. There is an inborn bris for Lashon Hara. Shetiskabel ala leiv uvedolim yosim iskabel ashara takif. That Lashon Hara is not just accepted by regular people like us, but gedolim accept it sometimes even quicker. There is kind of an inborn thing that we find that even gedolim accepted Lashon Hara. And it was difficult to get that out of their heart, like the Ebek HaMelech says, that it refers to who was Makabel the Lashon Hara, the G'dolei Ador, the leaders of a generation. Roshei Kisrei Hadoirish and Nitzutzi Nishmosim Lev Od Berisha. People who were leaders, who their crown brought them back to the soul of Adam, and they accepted Lashon Hara. That's what it says over there in Beis Rebbe. This fact brought to what it brought. It's just like they argued and they gossiped on Rabbi Yona's nations. Al Baal Shem Tov, what we know on the Baal Shem Tov and his students. And many more. From the first idea that that if they did certain things that outwardly you could accuse them and say they were in the heretic camp, that would not cause yet machlokes, widespread machlokes. The primary machlokes, the troublemakers. So, in other words, like this, Rabbi Yoel is saying here, an interesting point, citing the Beis Rebbe, that it's a known fact that Gedolim and Tzaddikim, unfortunately, sometimes accept machlokes. And it's a weird thing, but, I gave you the rational justification that Satmar Rebbe was sick for 11 years, so he didn't have the koyach to investigate and to fight. So he shook his head to many things. You know what I'm saying? Rabbi Yoel is saying, listen, it's Yadua that Gedolim and Tzaddikim that are plugged in to greatness accept machlokes. Yes, Yoel, you wanted to say something.
I remember the last time we went on Halichot to Williamsburg. We got belted with eggs.
Yep.
Everybody came back with a smile.
1977, sorry.
Yeah, that was the last time we went to Williamsburg for Hanukkah.
Yeah. Okay. Any questions anyone have, or we'll just continue tomorrow and finish the section?
It just seems to be very, very hard to say that Talmidei Chachamim, especially the Gele Hador, that they accept the Lashon Hara, it's very difficult to understand them.
I agree with you, but listen, not everyone says that. This is cited from, I'm not going to go tell you that every Rav and every rabbi and every Gadol and every, agree to that, okay? He's citing here from this particular source. Rabbi Yoel is saying, in other words, if you ask yourself a question, how is it that a person like the Satmar Rebbe, Rabbi Yoel is speaking with great derech eretz. This is why these fools, don't understand. He has so much derech eretz for the Satmar Rav, the Satmar Rebbe. And he's saying, so if that's the case, how can he believe all these lies that they made up about Lubavitch, that they're heretics and they don't keep Shabbos and they eat trade? You can't imagine the stupidity. You can't imagine, okay? About the Rebbe and about the Rebbetzin, it's like childish in a way, but they said it and they publicized it. So Rabbi Yoel is saying, unfortunately, there is this issue where Gedolim, accept is gossip. Zionism, it's not like they're looking for the gossip, the Zionism. You understand? It's not that, but if you come and sit down with a Rav, and two elderly people come, and they explain, and they say, and they show, and
Yeah, but wouldn't the Satmar Rav make an investigation and, like a guy makes an investigation.
Right, but like as I told you, Anderson, he had a stroke in 1968. And therefore, his ability and interest to make investigations he accepted a lot of things. And there's another thing you have to understand. That's number one. Right, his physical mind was already, impacted. He already had issues with Lubavitch, let's say, when President Shazar became the president, they called him the Nossi. The Rebbe called him a Nossi. So he had an axe to grind with the Rebbe. He had, first of all, in the late 50s, early 60s, he came up with this idea that the Chassidus of the Baal Shem Tov, we forgot. We don't know what the derech of the Baal Shem Tov is. And the Rebbe riled against him. Not only the Rebbe, but the Rebbe spoke, in the way of Chabad to Hasidim and explained the Square Rebbe and other said, outrageous. You're telling us that we forgot what the Baal Shem Tov wanted, so why are we wearing a shtreimel? Why are we wearing payas? Why are we doing Hasidic customs? The Rebbe, he said, so that was one, and he didn't maybe mean what he said, but he did say it, and it caused an uproar. And who was his main antagonist? The Lubavitcher Rebbe. Then came 63 when Shazar became the president, and the Rebbe congratulated him. He almost dropped dead. What?
The Rebbe gave him a lot of cover.
A lot of covered. And he almost had a heart attack from that. He dropped dead. It was like outrageous to him that the Lubavitcher Rebbe was such a great tzaddik and Talmud Chacham and everything goes and honors a Zionist. So the trajectory was there that he had certain, but he would never say the things that his Hasidim said later in the 70s, and he didn't even feel that way. You understand? He felt that, why are you honoring a Zionist? You know what I'm saying? But they went a step further. They said the fact that you're honoring a Zionist means you're a Zionist. It means whatever you do is Zionistic. He never said that. He never said it. But the fact that he did say that, why are you honoring a Zionist, and he was perturbed about that, already gave his Hasidim room to take the ball and go with it. You understand? And that's what happened.
Okay, I understand.
Okay, Velvel, verstehst? Verstehst? Clear. Avram, you got it? You understand
Yes,
you understand? I assume this is a whole new parsha for you, a whole new. You never really knew much about this.
I never knew there was such an issue with Chabad and Zionism.
Yeah. Anyway, I hope you're benefiting. That's what you guys wanted to learn. I would learn my Mora Chassidus, but whatever. Okay. See everyone tomorrow. Sei gesund. Enjoy. Bye bye.
All right, thank you.
Bye bye.